I love the One Piece trading card game, and I love to spend money on this game efficiently. Buying singles for your deck has always been the most cost-effective way of building a deck, but in this challenge, we throw that all away. Each week, I use a budget of $30 to open sealed product in the hopes of adding new cards to our deck. But since we can only play cards in our color, any cards we can't use, we can trade away. And there are additional buffs locked behind certain challenges. Join me in my journey as I rise up to become the King of the Pirates. You're watching One Piece from Scratch. Welcome back, Pirates! In today's episode, we will explore the Bounty Board. Now, at a glance, the Bounty Board is designed to introduce challenges, rewards, and goals, and we've already seen a few bounties prior in the series, and I did tease at least one of every type in the episode prior, but in this series, there will be 4 types of bounties, with each having their own sort of purpose. Currently, I have 4 bounties in each of the 4 categories for a total of 16 bounties, at least for right now. So let's start off with the repeatable bounties, since we should be the most familiar with them. These bounties are recurring challenges that serve sort of as short-term goals. We can typically expect to achieve these goals within just a short handful of episodes. Though they might not necessarily take too long to achieve, the rewards will scale with the difficulty of the bounties. Currently, the bounties in this category are win 2 games for a choice common, win 6 games for a choice rare, we've seen these before, we're very familiar with them, win locals for a choice SR, and accumulate $100 in value for an alt art upgrade. When one repeatable bounty finishes, the next one will immediately start. So if we have, for example, a current value of $80 and I pull a card that's worth $30, then the first 20 will complete the bounty and then the next 10 will roll into the next bounty. Next up are quest bounties. These are meant to be as side quests to introduce some fun challenges or some restrictions to our deck building. And here is where we can have some fun with different leaders and try and get rewarded for doing so. Since these are one-time bounties, we'll naturally cycle through them, so I'll need some ideas for some new bounties. And that's where you come in. You as a viewer can submit your idea for a bounty on any episode moving forward, and if I think it fits within the scope of the series, you might just see it on the bounty board. Current bounties in this category include win 10 games with no black cards in the main deck for an alt art upgrade. A little side note about this, we can still play a multicolored black leader, but we have to use the other color's cards. Complete a set of Sakazuki Don for the option to use $15 of the budget to buy a Flame fruit. Collect any 10 holographic Don for an extra $10 to the next episode's budget, and win 10 matches with the ST14 Luffy for an alt art upgrade. Suggesting new bounties is not where your roll ends, because there are also cipher bounties. The wanted poster on these are a little bit more hard to make out, so you'll have to use some context clues of what happened in the episode to contribute to the bounty, as well as the shown letters on the wanted poster to figure them out. If you think you have an idea of what it says, leave it in the comments below. When a commenter correctly guesses what was on the wanted poster, it'll be revealed to everyone and they will get a shout out. That being said, congrats to Defense Grade to actually be the first one to crack a cipher bounty. They correctly guessed the bounty just off of the teaser from the episode prior, so kudos to you. His efforts have yielded the quest, win 10 games versus Blue Doflamingo. Currently, there are 3 other cipher bounties to try and crack, so have at it. And finally, there are the Poneglyph bounties. In order to end the series and crown myself King of the Pirates, we'll have to have some accolades under our belts. If repeatable bounties were our short-term goals, then Poneglyph bounties are our long-term goals that we'll strive for with each episode. Let's go over them in detail. First is the win a bordered card bounty. This has to be from a regional, treasure cup, or any other large-scale tournament with a bordered card as a prize. I want to make sure that I'm branching out farther than just my local scene and put some actual stakes into the series, so I think winning a bordered card will do just that. Next is to complete a full main deck of alt art cards. For this bounty, full art cards will also count as alt art, so stuff like the Helmeppo from PRB will count for this. If there isn't an alt art or a full art version of a card in our deck, then whatever highest rarity of that card will work, be it a stamped version or even just base art. They do have to be cards that we would have otherwise played, so we can't just get our hands on like the 50 cheapest alts and call it a day. It's no surprise that a competitive version of our deck is pretty much almost done, so I think that this will be a good way to focus our trades into something more exciting. Next is to pull a manga or equivalent rare card, with equivalent being something like an Oda signed Luffy. Initially, I'm really skeptical of this bounty for obvious reasons, but what's a pirate without a great treasure? Finally is to hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now that is a pretty far reach from our current sub count, but I think I just need to keep grinding, putting out better videos, and earning your subscriptions. This is one that is a team effort, so if you like the videos, then join our crew, subscribe, and be a part of this journey. Wealth, fame, power, and everything else the world has to offer. We're gonna need it all if I want to crown myself the King of the Pirates. I made a Google Doc with all the currently active bounties along with their up-to-date progress with some extra rules and stipulations, especially on the alt art upgrades and how they count towards value-based bounties. You can find that in the description below. I hope this all made sense, and I hope you're as excited as I am for this next chapter of One Piece from scratch. And with that, let's move on to the opening. So, in prior episodes, we haven't been really strict on enforcing the $30 budget, and by that I mean that a pack of a standard set is usually only $450 MSRP. So, $450 times 6, that's $27. So, typically we would have $3 that should have rolled over. But yeah, we're going to start enforcing that. Last week's opening was only $24 worth of MSRP, so $6 got rolled over today. This opening, we are opening PRB. We've been waiting with bated breath for this set to come out, and now we've got our hands on it. These packs are $550 each, so we have a budget this week of 36, 6 rolled over from last week. 6 packs of $550 each will be $33, so that is in our budget, and then we'll have $3 rolling over into the next episode. So we're gonna have 6 packs of PRB 014 today. Very excited. There's a lot of cool stuff, and we'll finally have a whole playset of alternate art Dawn, so that's going to be really exciting. Unfortunately, I do know that the alt art Dawn was already pulled, or the golden Dawn was already pulled from this case, so unfortunately I don't think we'll be expecting one of those. But regardless, there's a lot of good reprints that come in this set. We could also get a lot of nicer versions of cards. We'll see what we get. Blast Breath, Duval, Mihawk, that's obviously a really good card. I'll put it aside. Suru, we unfortunately already have, so we won't need it, but get another good card. Murakumo Sword, brand new, so this is a rare. We could actually rarity upgrade, which will be nice. We'll put that aside. Borsalino, very nice. That's going to be a very relevant upgrade to our deck. And I believe this is the good slots. Nope, it's the Jolly Roger slot. Niji and Amaru on our Dawn is... Oh, who is this? Is that Alvida? Yeah, I think that's Alvida. That's her club right there. No? So we'll set that aside. We're going to throw that in pack number 2. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of value from the SR since this is a reprint set, and a lot of the value on those SRs went down. So really, we're just going to be looking for stuff we can use. I mean, they still hold a little bit of value, so maybe if we get something that we don't need, we can trade it off, especially if it's a little bit more relevant. But for the most part, we're just going to be looking to pull the stuff outright. We got Guardpoint, Reiju, Inuarashi, Raizo, Billionfold World Tricolosseum. So I don't know how to pronounce that. Beige, really cool card. We'll throw that in the trade binder for sure. Boa Hancock. Oh, wrong spot. We'll throw it over here. Boa Hancock, very nice. Sindri and One-Legged Toy Soldier. So if we ever do revisit King, we can throw this in as a hollow upgrade. And that is the Ivankov Dawn. Very nice. Pack number 3. Don Quixote Family. Queen. Very nice. Honestly, this is huge that this is in this set. The value on this, like, plummeted, which is really good for the community. But I guess if you spend money on this before it got reprinted, probably bad for you. We'll throw it aside. Dellinger. Shirahoshi. Pretty relevant card. Radical Beam. Also another relevant card. Izo. Very nice. Houndblaze, and the secret rare Luffy. Very nice. I think I might need one of these for like my personal collection, but I don't know if this actually holds value, but very nice that we have it. Shockwave. This looks gorgeous as a Jolly Roger. Look at that. That is beautiful. And we have the Uta Dawn. Very nice. Pack number 4. Honestly, this set is so much fun to rip, because you always get an SR hit, and you always get a Dawn. I mean, you can't ask for much more. Law, Barrier, Otama, very nice. Khalifa, Virgo, Bartolomeo, and Perospero. Cool. Whoa! Whoa! I didn't think it was going to be behind the SRs. Okay, cool. That is an alt art 9-drop Kaido. Very nice. One of the dudes at the shop is a huge Kaido fan, so maybe we can trade it off to him.
If not, if we do revisit a black-purple archetype, we can throw this in there. That is very nice, though. And Elf Thor with the Law Dawn behind it. So that is super cool. That definitely holds some value. Not sure how much it's played in different purple decks, but very cool, very cool. We have Law, Gyote Family, Raizo, Erdor, Nico Robin, Ryuma, and Reiju, very cool. Bartolomeo, and Thunderbolt. I really like the look of the events with the Jolly Roger. I know it doesn't add as much comparatively to like character cards, but I think the event with the extra little holo foiling is super cool. And ooh, we have a holo Kaido Dawn. There you go. Look at that texturing. That's the angle I gotta hold it at. Very nice. So this one's definitely gonna go in. That's a little bit more fancy compared to the other ones. And last pack of the opening. PRB's been treating us well. I mean, we've only had 6 packs so far, but already pulling some nice stuff. We've got Niji, Germa, Inarashi, Virgo, Bartolomeo. That's crazy that this card was like super expensive at one point in like the set 2 or 3 format, and now it's just here as a common. It's super crazy. Amaru, very nice. And Kuzan, very nice. Definitely going to be getting some use out of this. Definitely a good Navy card, and if we do want to switch, this is still like a really good black card in general. Very nice. Ivankov and Smoothie to round it out, and we do have the Doflamingo Dawn. Very nice. We'll see which of the, I was going to say 6, but it's really going to be 5 of these, or I guess 4 of these. 3? Whatever, we'll see what Dawn we choose for our lineup. This is definitely going to make it in there. These will probably make into the list. I mean, this is just going to be a holo upgrade. Not a Jolly Rancher, but still very cool. But we've still got $3 rolling over to the next episode.
And before we move on to the deck list portion of this video, we did trade off all of the Kaido stuff to the Kaido man himself. And in return, we did get some trade bait as well as some good black cards, one of them being a full art to make progress on one of our Poneglyph bounties. So, not a whole lot actually changes with this new iteration of the list, so we're going to go through the cards a little bit more fast. We'll talk about the definite changes of the list and then what I think about certain ratios, but for the most part, we do understand what a whole lot of this list looks like. We have the 4 Sengoku, 4 brand news, with one of them being the alt art, or the full art that we traded for. We're going to make a little bit of progress on that. 2 Helmeppo. I'm still a fan of this at 2. I don't know if I need to go up or down, but for now I like it as 2. I see it often enough to where I have one engraved with Moria, or to pull off of Moria. And I still see it often enough in the mid to early game when I need to use it to be able to cost reduce and then pop something with the Kobe. I am liking Kobe, but again, as we get more copies of, or as we get our hands on copies of EBO1 Brook, we're going to lower that down. Down to 1 Hina. I don't think that I really need too much more than that as of this moment. It would be really strong if we could pair it with Jack, and then the next turn Moria into Rebecca Helmeppo, and then Rebecca grab back Hina and play it. But since we don't have a whole lot of Jacks, and we don't have like the EBO1 Brook to do that same play except swing with Brook, I think 1 Hina is going to be fine there. We do have 2 copies of the Borsalino. I did cut the 1 copy of the 4-cost Hina. I didn't think it was going to be good enough to be running anymore, and plus the fact that Borsalino has 1k counter, it's a 4-cost that we can pull off of Moria, and it's going to guarantee block. I think that Borsalino is going to be a good addition over Hina. Of course, we still have 4 Tashigi, best card in the deck. We're still at 2 Isho. Honestly, if there was a Navy card that I could cut for some other non-engine, for non-Navy I should say, it might be Isho, but for now we're going to stick with 2 copies there. And for our 2K lineup, we have 4 Suru, 4 Tashigi, and let's fit it on the next line, 3 copies of T-Bone. I thought in a lot of games we had a lot of 2Ks and we just had a lot of defense in hand and sometimes not enough power cards, so I did want to cut down 1 to introduce some other stuff, but I think that if I were to cut another 2K, it would probably be 1 copy of the Tashigi. It is really good to be able to get off of the Rebecca, but we're not really going to be playing it out, so I think that'll be the next 2K to cut. And when I say cut, I of course only mean 1 copy there. And then for our non-Navy, we do have 3 copies of Rebecca. We have the 1 copy of Sabo, 2 copies of Jack, Again, if we run into more copies of Jack, I think I'd want to throw them in just so we can get more value out of Hina. Of course, we now have our 4 Morias. That's going to be huge. Being able to see it a whole lot more often, especially with Sengoku. I'm really happy that I rounded out that playset. And we do have the new edition, 8-cost Sabo. I think that a lot of the math actually is really favorable. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let me sprawl out the rest of this. We have 3 Ice Ages down from 4. I felt like sometimes I was seeing multiples when I really didn't need to see multiples, especially versus Doflamingo, which doesn't have a go tall strategy as a go wide strategy. So I think going down to 3 there, and then introducing 2 copies of Navy HQ is going to be huge. So Sabo with Navy HQ and Smoker means we can pop a 4 and a 6, which is super relevant math. Especially into Doflamingo, because that means we can pop the Jozu as well as any of their 4 costs. And in general, Sabo, we can just make it KO 2 4 costs, -1 with Smoker, and then we can do 4 5. So I think Sabo is going to be a really good addition, especially for the late game, being able to keep pace and then catching up on pace if we need to. We did finally get our Fancy Dawn in order, so let's show them off real fast. We still have 2 copies of the Whitebeard Dawn from set 8. We have 1 copy of the set 5 Dawn, the Croc versus Luffy Dawn. We did go with the Law Dawn, Enel, Uta, Magellan, Yamato. That is not Elvita like I previously thought. It is Yamato. And we have the Sabo Dawn. So that's it. That is our 10 Dawn and the rest of our deck there. I think it's going to be working a whole lot better than our iteration from last week, especially because we did cut the 4-cost Hina, but I'm really excited to try it out, and that is it.
Time to play the game!
So, coming into round 1, we are back on a very familiar scene if you've seen the first episode of the series. Unfortunately for me, I was sick on the Tuesday that we usually run locals, so I am resorting to the little bit of pre-recorded footage that I had. The list isn't going to be the exact list that I had planned out for this episode, since I recorded this before I recorded episode 8, so it's going to be a little off for this game and the next game, but we do have 2 sim games as well to complement that, and those will be on the new list. I'm also recording this at a different location than I usually record. I'm back home for Thanksgiving break, so if I sound funny, if you hear my dog, apologies in advance. So, as I mentioned earlier, this was recorded before episode 8, so this is technically the first time that I piloted Smoker in the series, so you'll see me make a whole lot of misplays during this game and the next game as well. It was also really late at night, so we weren't exactly on the top of our game. But enough excuses, let's talk about this actual game here. So, early on, I did pop the opponent's Sengoku, which I realized later on was a misplay, since you could always use their 1 cost to attach a Dawn to your leader, minus them by 1, put them down to 0, and give your leader a +1k. And obviously we're not talking about stuff like Bonnie or Momonosuke where they can pay again to search again. You want to get those off the board as soon as possible, but stuff like Sengoku in the Smoker matchup or Perona in the Doflamingo matchup, you definitely want to keep those up so you can use your leader effect on them. And I do make a pretty defensive Moria play here. I go into Rebecca brand new to be able to get some 2Ks. I do grab the T-Bone as well as the Tashigi, and I don't have a whole lot else going on my hand, so I'm going to try and play Protect the Tower with our Moria with a whole lot of 2Ks as well as the Rebecca blocker. But unfortunately for me, Rebecca Hina into Tashigi leader effect will send the Moria to trash. And our opponent is picking up a whole lot of steam against me, so he is fine with swinging his blocker Sabo here. Otherwise, it's just going to be a body that's going to be left up and probably not going to block on my turn. Coming back to my turn, I do make another Moria play into Rebecca Sengoku, and I'm trying to find some other pieces, and I do find the Kobe in the 3 cards that I draw, so I'm actually fine grabbing a Tashigi off of the Rebecca effect, so I can still play the Kobe from hand that I drew off of the Sengoku. And I didn't think I was going to find the Kobe out of the Sengoku, so the Ice Age that I did use on the Sabo is going to be a little bit overkill, but it's alright, we're still making progress on our board. And our opponent is going to respond with a Moria into Rebecca Sengoku, and notice that he does grab the Hina before the Sengoku hits the board. And obviously this is a friendly match, so it doesn't really matter to either of us, but if this ever happens to you in a huge tournament, then since the Rebecca is already grabbing back the Hina, that means you were forfeited the 2 or lower from the Moria, and that's where you get a judge and say, hey, my opponent just resolved the Moria to grab back only Rebecca, then resolved Rebecca's effect to grab back Hina, and then play Hina, but then is now trying to go back and resolve Moria's effect to get a 2 cost or lower. Just one more time, this was a friendly match, so it didn't really matter to either of us, but again, when stakes are on the line, you gotta rule shark on stuff like that. And I'm feeling pretty decent about my board state right now. They do commit 2 swings into life, and I'm gonna take them both just to advance some cards into hand. For that one, I am going to give the Rebecca, and then we do see the Stussy to remove the Moria. And unfortunately for me, I don't have a whole lot going in my hand. I don't have a brand new to search, I don't have a Sengoku to try and cycle. I'm pretty sure I just have a whole lot of 2Ks. So I do commit 2 big swings here. And again, I feel like that's a little bit more justification to the reason why I am going to go from 12 2Ks down to 11 and possibly 10. I felt like I was breaking up a whole lot on 2Ks. And from here, my game plan should be to just big swing into one of his big bodies and try and get them off the field before he has too much pressure to just go for game next turn. But unfortunately for me, he does counter out of that huge swing that I made. 3 bodies, 1 life left, and I still have a decent amount of cards, but that's not going to matter. I can't counter out of that last swing, and that's GG's. Coming into game 2, hopefully we're going to make a whole lot less misplays, but on our 1 Dawn turn, we do find the Sengoku. We're going to discard the Kobe, get that started in grave, as well as the Borsalino. And our opponent does find the brand new, using that to grab a T-Bone, and then they discard a Moria, which we like to see. Typically, Smoker doesn't have a whole lot to play on their 3 Dawn turn, so here I just attach all of my Dawn to my leader and swing for 8. It gets a little bit better on their 4 Dawn turn, because at least they can play something like a Borsalino or a Rebecca to grab back a 2K or something, but outside of that, it's really the 5 Dawn turn and onwards where you can start playing Tashigis is where Smoker really likes to be. And on my turn, I do play a Rebecca to grab back a Kobe and play the Kobe. I didn't want to pop because I didn't want to discard any cards from hand this early in the game. I didn't think that popping that brand new was going to be worth a card in hand, but we did establish a body. And we see that our opponent is just going to swing into it, clearing it anyway. So I think, honestly, getting the Borsalino would have been better than grabbing the Kobe, even if we didn't play anything from hand. On my turn, Jack comes down to KO the Brook, so our opponent going into their 8 Dawn turn doesn't do a cost-based Moria to be able to remove anything on our board. Not that our board was that stacked to begin with. And on my turn, I'm going to start with a swing. I'm going to then use Ice Age on the Moria, use Jack to KO the Moria, draw a card, discard a card, and then play a Moria of my own, grabbing Rebecca Sengoku. Sengoku going to trash a Kobe. I had a second in my hand, and a Tashigi, knowing that Rebecca will just grab back the Tashigi, and then Kobe from my hand. The second one is going to come down and KO the brand new. On my opponent's turn, they are going to hard play Hina from hand, and then play Rebecca, grab back a 2K, and then play Brook to remove my own Rebecca. We're kind of keeping pace with each other. We have the same life total, and we're not really making a whole lot of advances on the life. We're kind of just clearing each other's board with Tashigis and then establishing them back with Morias, so we really need one of us to get a power card to be able to close out this game. And despite that, I am able to clear a whole lot of his board, and I don't think a Moria is really going to build it back up. I do play the brand new and grab the Suru here, and it kind of just stays on the board the whole game. Again, we were really tired, and I kind of just forgot that that was there. On my opponent's turn, he is going to try and clear some of my board, but I think I'm already picking up a whole lot of steam, and our opponent does drop the Stussy to be able to KO my Jack. And here, I'm staring at the Sewer like, what the hell is this doing on the board? So I throw it in trash, but again, I did search that off a brand new, and I kind of just forgot to add it to hand, but it's alright. I'm already picking up a whole lot of steam, and I think I can close out this game. I'm going to put a whole lot of pressure onto his life, but unfortunately not enough to close out the game here. So that means I need to keep my board healthy and make it to the crackback in order to win this game, but I think I have enough on board to be able to do that. Our opponent does use a Tashigi to send our Sabo to grave, and then he's going to use the leader swing to try and get the Tashigi down. I do give counter for that, and unfortunately I don't have enough counter to be able to get out of this Stussy swing, so the Moria goes down. 3 bodies, no blockers, and 1 card left in life means this is just going to be a numbers game. Ice Age comes down to kill the brand new, but that doesn't stop all the Dawn left on my leader and swing for game. GG's. Coming into game 3, we're now on the sim, and here's a really good point where we can try and find some different leaders that we usually don't run into at locals. For example, Katakuri. No one at our locals plays Katakuri, and if they do, not too often. I do want to make a quick note about things that I've noticed with playing on the sim as opposed to in person. Number 1, I generally think that the average sim player isn't as good as the average locals player. And number 2, I don't want to be spamming games against just super off-meta leaders, so I'm going to try and limit it to stuff that's actually going to be seen in the meta, but maybe not as relevant. That being said, if I do need to use the sim for an episode, I want to make sure that I'm still capturing leaders that are still going to be at least seen in the meta. I don't want to just go against some like red Utsa deck just to boost my win rate, so we're at least going to pick stuff that's going to be competent. Or maybe in a future episode we can try and figure out a way to play against some of our subscribers. I think that would be pretty cool as well. And back to the game, neither of us really find our mid-game strategy cards, so we're really just using our weenies to be swinging into our opponent's life. So he swings with his pudding, and I'm going to swing with my brand news. I do have Tashigi in hand, but I don't really want to use it to be popping the 1 cost on board. I feel like that's not really good value, so I am holding those in hand. And we do see the Kikunojo come out of life, which is going to be a little bit of a problem had we been any other deck except for Smoker. That Tashigi that we held in hand is going to be really huge and be able to remove that without KOing it, giving our opponent a life. And I'm starting to pick up on the fact that our opponent has been attaching Don to his characters and leaders and swinging in instead of playing some meaningful bodies in the mid game for 2 turns in a row now, so I'm guessing that he has got a lot of top-ended hand, maybe a lot of 7-drop moms and potentially 10-drop moms, but the fact that we didn't see any 7-drop moms means it's probably going to be multiple copies of 10-drop mom. And looking at our current state, our opponent has 3 life compared to our 2, so if we make it to the 10 Don turn, we really don't want him to be dropping back-to-back-to-back 10-drop moms. That's going to feel really bad. So we're going to try and close out the game as soon as possible, but unfortunately for us, he does close out the game here and concedes. I think he had a lead, so I'm not really too sure why he closed it out there. And we're going to move on to game 4, where we're going to be against Black Luffy. Not a whole lot of people play this at the shop, so I was really the only one piloting it for a good while until someone did bring it, but I don't think they've been piloting Black Luffy since. And since we've played this strategy before, we know its weaknesses, and we're going to try and punish those weaknesses. I'm going to try and pick up as much steam as I can in the mid to early game to try and have that pay dividends later. As best as we can, we want to try and manage so that our opponent isn't going to be dropping some high cost characters, especially in the late game. But even if he does, and he does become a 6k for our turn, our Tashigi is statted at 6k, so it's going to be naturally swinging into that, as well as our Luffy, or excuse me, our Smoker is going to be able to boost itself up to a 7k during our turn with 1 Don in our leader. So I think this matchup is honestly in our favor as long as we don't see too much top end from our opponent. My opponent and I do drop an Isho on each other, and I think mine was a little bit better. I got a little bit better cards out of hand. I think he got a Jack and an Isho out of mine, but I am set up for the late game a little bit better, so right here he does concede. And I am going to go into a game 5. I feel like especially the sim games are going by a whole lot faster since our opponent does have the ability to readily just move on from our game and go on to whatever next game they want to play. And unfortunately for me, that means I'm not getting as much experience into different matchups, especially into the later games where there's a lot more decision making that goes into each turn. Anyways, we are going to be moving on to this game versus Moria. We have seen Moria before. Lance pilots Moria at our locals, so we do have an idea of what this deck wants to do and how this deck plays. Our opponent does play the 4-drop Hina from the starter deck, and I think it's a really good include for Moria actually. Especially as a 4-drop to be getting off of the 8-drop Moria, it can give 1 Don to your leader, and since you still have 2 Don left over after an 8-drop Moria, you can then use the leader effect, swing into something, and then get another 4 cost on board. So I think it's actually really synergistic with this deck. And there's the fact that Moria will be spamming the trash pretty fast, so Hina will always have targets to return to the bottom of the deck. And coming back to the game, I feel like I am putting a whole lot of pressure during the mid game, and I'm getting a whole lot of cards out of hand, getting some life out of his total, as well as managing my own hand so I don't get Perona'd. Coming back to my turn, he does swing 5 into my Kobe, and I think this is one of the easier blocks with Borsalino, knowing that if he does choose to pursue it with his Brook, then it's going to be a 2k out of hand, but instead he swings it into life, and I do take it. And I do forget the fact that that does push me up to 5 cards in hand, so Perona is going to be live being able to rip a card out of hand, which is fine. That lets us put a Helmeppo into our graveyard. Coming back to my turn, we actually see the Navy HQ card put in a whole lot of value. It allows my Jack to pop up to a 4 cost, so that gets rid of the Perona. And it lets my leader give -1 to a 1 cost, pushing it down to 0, so it still gets a +1k during my turn. Had I used my leader's -1 to push Perona to 3 cost for Jack instead of using the Navy HQ, then our leader wouldn't have been able to get the +1k. So that's something good to keep in mind. It does work with Jack very well. And on our opponent's turn, they do drop a Moria of their own, and I really disagree with their choice of cards here. They do pull the Absalom and the brand new. I think it was more correct to be pulling the Hina for the reason we stated earlier. Hina can give 1 Don to our opponent's leader, and then our opponent's leader can still swing for 6, and then use the 2 extra Don to be able to play the Absalom, so you just get more board presence that way. Our opponent does concede, and that's GG. So we ended the day at 4-1, pushing our overall record to 23-12. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get to fully try out stuff like our Navy HQ, but on the bright side, we do have almost double our wins compared to our losses. In terms of bounties, we do have a few updates, so let's go top down. We did get our first full art card for our Poneglyph bounty with our trade for the brand new full art, so that's cool. We also made some progress on 2 of the unsolved cipher bounties, so hopefully that can be enough of a hint to guess what they are. And finally, we did get 2 completes on our common card bounty, as well as 1 complete on our rare card bounty. And that pushes our vaulted count to 9 commons and 1 rare, which will be perfect for next week's off-meta episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, it would help a lot if you could leave a like, sub, comment, or just share the video. I put a whole lot of effort into the bounty system, so I really hope you like it. Don't forget to leave your bounty ideas and cipher bounty guesses in the comments below. Also, what leader do you think I'm going to play for the off-meta tournament? Until next time, drink your water, pass out love, hugs, kisses. Mwah!